G'day viewers, it's Michael here again and welcome back to Single Racer. Now, if you're a long time subscriber, you might have heard me talk in the past how, although I was born in a major Melbourne hospital here in Australia, I actually come from a small country town called Castlemaine. And Castlemaine was known mainly for two major things. One was a sugary sweet lolly about the size of the top of your thumb called Castlemaine Rock, and the other thing was it was known as a hot rod town. You saw lots of hot rods, especially going back to the 50s to 70s around that time. And so, given that one of my favourite tracks that you can see here, Longford for Assetto Corsa, reminds me so much of that country town, the road itself and some of the buildings around it, I thought I would show off 10 of my favourite hot rods that you can download for Assetto Corsa. And so I wanted to accomplish two things with this video. The first is to quickly show those 10 cars in the showroom, and that is simply because if you like a particular look of one single car, you'll get to hear its name and you can download it straight away. And the second thing is because this is not as serious as some of my videos, so I thought it was a great time to test a thing called the HORIZON PPFilter. Now, I don't generally like the blurriness of it, or it's sort of overblown in its colours or its saturation. So I thought it was a great time to test. I'm going to do three versions of the two laps. One in my normal, very sharp, clear 2D. The second one using this HORIZON filter. And the third one, of course, in my standard VR, mixed in with a bit of free run camera stuff that I always enjoy doing when I do VR. So this way you can see all three together and see which ones you like personally, and if you feel like you like one more than another, please feel free to leave a comment underneath the video. But I'll have timestamps in the description to quickly jump to any of those three. But also now, let me show those 10 cars. So if you don't want to see this portion to see what each individual car looks like, just click on the timestamp underneath the video in the description. So let's check out those 10 cars now. And first up, we have a truly classic hot rod, the kind of hot rod you associate with films such as American Graffiti, and this is synonymous with hot rod towns like Castlemaine. And next up we have another Ford, the Ford 34 Coupe Legend. Looks a little bit like, with its short wheelbase, almost like a sprint car, you know, a dirt sprint car, that typical feel it has about it. Next up is a rod called the F132 Naked by Beck Customs. Very aggressive looking car. And this next one is another variant of the typical hot rod. It's called the Ford Coupe 1940 Custom Special. Very reminiscent of a mafia type car. If it was black, I'd swear a mafia hitman was driving it. And now we get into some of the more unusual hot rods. This is called the AP Locusta, or that's how I'd pronounce it, V8, with its propeller-like front end on it. Very, very weird looking hot rod. And this is another Ford which are very popular for hot rodding. It's called the Ford E100 Econoline. There are two versions for Assetto Corsa, and this is actually called the hot rod version. And now I'll include a couple of cars that I've featured before. The first one being called the Longford D8 GTO, a very menacing looking car here. And the next one I featured on this track before, it's called the Glass GT Exo-Rod, almost like a skeleton car. You can see right through the whole thing. And we wrap up the AI with a classic hot rod. It's not really a hot rod technically, but it is done up quite a lot by hot rod enthusiasts. It's the Chevy Bel Air 1957 version in the classic blue colour. Absolutely beautiful. And now we finally wrap up the 10 cars. This is the car I'll be driving, your classic Ford Model T, or it's known here as the Ford T-Bucket 1923 version, your absolute classic hot rod, and what an outstanding car it is. And so finally, summing up again, I'll be showing 3 race replays of the 2 laps, with the second one being something you can download from Race Department, which is called the HORIZON Shades PPFilter, that now doesn't need reshade to work. Before you had to install something called reshade. Now it works on its own bat, so you can see what it's like compared to the first replay, which is your very clean and clear version of the same type of vision, so you can make up your own mind. So now it's time to go racing. So this is Michael signing out for Single Racer. I'll catch you next time. See you later, and let's go hot rod racing.